I'm really excited about this webinar, this week's webinar, Selling as an Experience. But we have some exciting news coming up. Welcome, Dave. Great to see you.
Hello, John. Great to see you. Great to be here.
Now, Dave, is it correct, if memory serves, that you, after the webinar before Q&A, you might have to boogie to the airport?
I might, although I do have looks like I have a 30-minute delay, so I might be able to make it through Q&A.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. All right. So a lot of you have attended the customer service revolution in the past, which has we put on 15 years at, in Cleveland for 2 days. So we aren't doing it this year, but what we are doing is we're having a live stream workshop, two back-to-back Mondays. And it's called Leading the Experience Revolution, where we're gonna help you build exceptional journeys for both your customer and employees, the team members. So one of the questions I have was, would you like to create consistency, scale your business, build loyal customer base, and retain your workforce?
I'm sure the answer, John, for most would be yes, we would. But here's the reality out there. Unfortunately, this is what we see throughout businesses today. Most are struggling with a lack of standards. We see that all the time in our consulting practice, where organizations want to provide a great experience, want to be focused on the customer, but they just don't have the standards in place. They've never really solidified what those are. The other big issue we see are customer complaints, right? In some organizations, customer complaints can just kind of fall on deaf ears and never get responded to, never get resolved. In other organizations, they might resolve the complaint, but they're not doing a good job of tracking and looking for root causes and trying to put some fixes in to what's causing those complaints. Unengaged employees, that we see that all the time. They just don't have the desire. They're not engaged with the organization or the work, and that gets felt by the client, whoever your customer is. And then implementation that sticks. Something we do on the consulting side of our business is help create, but then also make sure that it becomes part of your culture, that you're talking about it on a regular basis and it sticks. And the last one that organizations we see are struggling with are finding great employees, right? Especially coming out of the pandemic about 4 years ago, there were shortages, and a lot of times it was get whoever we can in here, and organizations are still dealing with the results from that. So that's the reality out there. So here's the thing: you can keep with those struggles, you can keep doing what you're doing, or you can join us and learn how to create your signature experience through journey mapping. And as John mentioned, we'll have two sessions, two separate Mondays. One is going to be focused on your external customer, your customer experience. And then the other one's going to be focused on your internal customer or your employee experience. And so we'll dig deep into both of those. And so here's the thing, and it ties in really nicely to the sales component that we're talking about on today's webinar. The reality is, even if you have a better product than your competitors, if your service is lacking, people aren't going to stick with you. They're willing to pay more if the service is there. So if your service is lacking, consumers will actually go to an organization that has a reputation for better service.
And Dave, when
And
you say
also,
service, I think we mean experience, right?
correct. Yes, the customer service they're providing, they're focused on the customer experience. And the other thing that rings true is companies with highly engaged employees have more sales because those team members are more engaged, salespeople and non-salespeople. Sometimes it's back of house folks, but if they're more engaged, they're more likely to go above and beyond for your customer and provide better service and advocate for that customer. So overall, they're going to do a better job.
Yeah, and what I like to add here is if your clients, potential clients, can't find the experience better somewhere else, then what they're going to look for is the cheapest, right? And we
Yeah.
definitely don't want to live there. So Monday, October 28th is day one, and the price includes both days. And this is not like a webinar like this where we're doing the majority of the talking. This is hands-on for 3 hours. You're going to be working. So your one price gets you up to five people from your team, leaders, and we're gonna, show you some great examples. So like, day one, October 28th, we're gonna be working on you creating your signature customer experience, and journey mapping your touch points of your customer, patient, tenant, client, whatever you may call them, and we're viewing it from their vantage point, reducing consistencies, remove employee, department, and location roulette. And one thing none of us can use as a crutch is, well, that person's newer, right? Well, the experience shouldn't suffer. Okay. And that's what's so important about this. How to deliver outstanding results with average employees. And what that's meant is, we don't want to, when we do this for our clients, we don't want to create so many things and so many, hard things that changes, who you hire, and that you need employees with PhDs and superhumans. It's got to be done with the average employees, and you can change the experience you have with the existing employees you have. Okay. And this is really helps anticipate and avoid service defects at each stage of your interactions, and seek and capitalize on opportunities to go above and beyond, teaching those employees what the low-hanging fruit is, and finally, create and train non-negotiable standards. That's really where your signature experience comes in, that anyone your customer comes in contact with, they're going to be do this. And I know a lot of people on here, maybe existing or past clients, who we've helped you do this. That's great. You have advantage. So if it's more than 8-12 months old, your customer experience cycle, your journey map, it's changing, it's updating, especially with technology and AI, which we're going to address. You want to bring that and work with your team and always be evolving. Day two is the following Monday, November 4th, from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's where we're going to be focused on creating the employee experience, the team member experience, and their different parts, from the recruiting pre-hire stage to onboarding to, ongoing. 91 days to hopefully 30 years, whatever that may look like. So we want to create a culture moat that prevents people from getting recruited away, our rock stars. Retain, engage our talented employees long term, and when it's not just dependent on the pay, right? Give employees something to brag about. Be an obsessively positive and grateful leader. Reduce turnover. Increase employee morale. Instill purpose in your team. So, and then finally, both Mondays, we are going to wrap up with, again, this is intensive. You're going to go into your breakouts with your team. And if you're, by yourself, you're going to go into breakouts with other people, and you're going to work on this. And then me and Dave are going to come into your breakouts and find out how you're doing and help. And this is very interactive. So then we're going to recap at the end and really provide you with the resources so you can implement this, with real life examples, the tools, digital workbooks, and then the real-time coaching during the event.
And here are your instructors, these two handsome gentlemen on your screen. And the reason we have the picture of the book up there, The Employee Experience Revolution, which came out in June and was the #1 new release and the #1 Amazon bestseller, is because a lot of that, especially that second session, comes directly from that book that we've been focused on for a few years now, and learned so many great things that organizations are struggling with, that we're able to help with that focus of the journey mapping of the internal experience. So a lot of the information comes from that book. John and I will be your host for those 2 sessions. And here's what's included. Just a quick overview of what's included with the 2 days. So full access on October 28th, which is the customer experience journey map. Full access on November 4th, which is the employee experience journey map. And I wanted to point out too, I think, John, you mentioned this, but your price includes some other team members, and it doesn't have to be the same team members for both, right? You can have a couple of people that are more focused on your external experience be on the October 28th, and then maybe some folks that are more HR join for the November 4th. And as John already mentioned, there's digital workbooks for each one that you'll be able to download. and utilize. So that's what's included, as well as a replay of both workshops after the event for up to 4 weeks. You'll have that access, and then support. If you're a client of the DiJulius Group, we're always here for you. But we also will have specific Q&A sessions post event to make sure that you have all the information that you need and you're working on implementation of the things that you want to focus on.
So your investment is $249 for up to 5 people. That includes both workshops. And here's all the information you need. You can register using this barcode or email Lindsay at the DiJulius Group .com, and the website and phone number are there. So we are ready to get rolling. If you have any questions, if we went too fast, well, you'll get the slides on that. But I really want to get to this, Dave. Selling as an experience. So everyone's selling. Yeah, you probably have a sales team, but everyone is selling, but not just selling, but making it an experience. So, Dave.
Yeah, so here's the formula, and I love this formula. And one thing I want to point out, at the DiJulius Group, on the consulting side of our business, we are not necessarily sales focused, right? We're not sales trainers. But the interesting thing is we get hired by sales organizations all of the time because they know if they're focusing on the experience they are delivering, that sales will come. And so that's a big piece of what we'll be talking about today. And a lot of what we're talking about has evolved in some of those relationships we've had with some sales focused organizations that hire us to come in and really help them streamline their efforts. But here's the formula, and I love this formula. Expertise plus rapport equals high sales. Expertise plus rapport equals high sales. And here's the reality. Sales has never been more difficult, especially in today's crowded market. I just think, I look at my inbox and I see how many emails I get over and over and over that are just cold calls, basically trying to grab my attention. So it's a crowded market, and it's hard to make your product or service stand out over another. So great companies have to train its sales teams to really differentiate within that first few moments, that initial contact, whether it's a phone call or even in an email or a text, however you're reaching to your potential buyers. And so they need to really make an impact in those first few moments, but then also throughout the entire sales process. They need to stand out. Everyone's in sales, right? Everyone's a salesperson, whether you're actually titled as a salesperson or account executive, chief revenue officer, a consultant like me, accountant, lawyer, entrepreneur, really any professional field, there's a sales aspect to what you do. And this formula is designed to help you stand out from the rest. And so let's kind of dive into what each one of these stands for. So expertise, obviously, you have to know more about your product, your services that you are selling than anyone else. You are there to educate your buyer. Your objective is to demonstrate your expertise and make sure that the buyer leaves thinking, wow, I never met someone who knows more about this particular service, item, whatever it is, and its benefits and its drawbacks, right? That's where you go into the mode where you are really advocating for that person. And then building rapport. This one is so important because in our transactional world today, it's really easy to just kind of go through and ask the questions, do your needs analysis or whatever your current methodology is right now, and not focus on building rapport. And that's such a missed opportunity if you are doing that, because what building rapport really is, it's focusing on making a genuine connection with that prospect and determining their interests, right? And you want to help them get what they need, not just make the sale, right? You don't want to just get the sale at the end of the day if you're not the best match, right? So you want to make sure that you are delivering for this prospect and you're able to deliver for them in the future. And this old adage is true today, hasn't changed. Customers buy from people they like, right? So being a likable person, building that rapport, learning about that potential customer personally and professionally, so that you are giving them everything they need and showing that you truly care about them and you care about their company's success, not just making the sale.
So that's the selling experience, and the key is demonstrating your expertise while building a rapport simultaneously at every interaction of the sales process. On the initial call, the discovery phase, during the proposal, in each follow-up stage, closing the sale and post-sale. That's important. When this is consistently done, you have created a selling experience that will be hard for anyone else to beat. And even better, you will not have to be the lowest bidder. The professionals who provide a true selling experience often wins the sale with the highest priced proposal. So, let's get into it. A salesperson's superpower. Any successful professional needs when dealing with existing and potential customers is empathy. As a salesperson's empathy increases, their level of listening increases. And when professionals understand the buyer's plight, they attempt to intuitively assess the meaning of the buyer's message by placing themselves in the customer's place throughout the interaction. So listen, if you've dealt with us, we talk about a day in the life of a customer. Well, we got to understand as salespeople the day in the life of a buyer, right? And this buyer has a boss who has tasked them with finding a solution to their problem, their needs within the budget they were given. The buyer may likely lack the expertise of the product or service that they're sourcing. Being uneducated in a certain area can be frustrating. The buyer may need to have answers for their boss in a quick turnaround. Slow response times from salespeople can be frustrating. The buyer may have a bad taste when dealing with salespeople, and every company they are researching and talking to sounds the same. So all these are potential professional stresses in the buyer's day, on top of the possible personal issues that they may be having with their kids, finances, aging parents, etc.
So how do you establish trust and credibility immediately? Right? That's a really important factor to what we're talking about here. How can you establish that right off the bat in that initial conversation? Because those are so crucial. The best way to stand out from every competitor who appears to offer the same that you offer is to not be over ambitious about closing the sale. That might sound a little counterintuitive, but you don't want to be that pesky person just trying to get the signature on the bottom line. You want to focus on doing what's best for that prospect, making sure that you are a good match. So we say, be cautious. Let's ensure that we are the right company that you're looking for. It's kind of an interview going both ways, right? Are we the right match for you? Or are you the right match for us? And don't assume the buyer knows what they are looking for. You really have to educate throughout that sales process. And then demonstrate that your company has the certain criteria for doing business, right? That you're the right company to work with because you know that you will both be able to work well together. So when we continue to talk about how to establish trust and credibility, this one's interesting, John. This is one that I know that we do at the DiJulius group all the time. We will only take you on as a client if we both agree that the value you will receive from our consulting agreement is far greater than the fees you pay us. Is that acceptable? Right? That's one that sometimes stops people in their tracks, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're shocked that we say that and we mean it. But a great salesperson understands that both parties must win, and this agreement drives us. This agreement, not the actual contract agreement, but what we're stating here drives us to examine every potential source of value, identifying the pain points and opportunities that all clients possess. Additionally, it clarifies that the client's ultimate goals, what the ultimate goals and desired future state. So, I don't think they're hearing that from anyone else or the other majority of the other salespeople.
Right. Probably not. And then how do you establish your expertise? What do you do to make sure that you are establishing yourself as an expert? Right. So the discovery phase of any sales process is typically an initial call It's where the buyer tells the salesperson what their company is looking for. The biggest mistake at this stage that salespeople make at this stage and at the proposal stage too is when the salesperson immediately starts to sell how great their company is or how they're such a perfect match. And they really haven't done their due diligence yet. It's kind of that old adage you may have heard before in sales when the person kind of just shows up and throws up. They just start throwing out all their knowledge, all their information, and just hoping that something sticks, right? But that's not how to establish you as an expert. You got to make sure that you are the perfect match for their needs and that the well-known clients that you have worked with, right? So that's how you start to establish your credibility. This is where you shouldn't be what the salesperson leads with, right? You shouldn't necessarily go here first. You need to find out about them. What gaps can you fill? What can you provide them? And also assume that that buyer is speaking with 3 to 6 other companies, right? You have to make that assumption. You have to make that you're going up against others that may be really great organizations. Sometimes you know who they are, sometimes you don't, right? But if you're focused on the fact that the buyer is speaking to others, you can probably guarantee that they've heard almost the exact same thing, right? So following that old standard formula of throwing up, showing up and throwing up and just throwing out your information, others are doing that as well. So you're not standing out. So making sure that you are finding about them, you're able to match up what your company's skills are and what you're going to provide for them. So you know that it is a good match and is going to be a win-win.
So, sticking around on the learning, which is the first part of the discovery call, the sales professional should, not be doing any of the talking. They should be focused on asking many great questions. Great questions demonstrate your knowledge and expertise that the buyer probably hasn't been asked for. So, examples of that is, where and how are you losing money, by not taking initiative and action? Have you tried fixing this in the past? If so, why didn't that work? Do you have any senior leadership? Do you have senior leadership's unwavering support for this project? Who are the key decision makers for this project? A lot of times it's not the buyer, right? The buyer is just going out there and collecting proposals and quotes, if you will. Who will be the project lead if it's a B2B complex sales? What are the key performance indicators that will measure this product's success? And in 12 to 18 months from now, what would have to happen for this to absolutely be the best investment your company has ever made? This question is powerful because it encourages the client to envision their ideal future states. So, one of my favorite quotes along this line is: a sale happens when you're immersed in helping to serve your customer. Don't focus on the sale, focus on providing expertise, being a resource, and building a genuine rapport. The sale will come. So, part two, the educating, that's the second part of the discovery when the salesperson can demonstrate their expertise. This may not all be on the initial call. A lot of times that buyer will have to go and find out answers to your questions. But one of my favorite books on this topic is The Challenger Sale. Taking Control of the Customer's Conversation by Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson. You can look up our podcast. I've interviewed Matthew on his book, The Challenger Sale. The author's premise is that the best salespeople don't just find out what a customer needs are, they challenge them. They challenge their assumption. They're willing to educate them on what the buyer may be missing in their quest to solve the problem. The other salespeople the buyer speaks to will say, yes, we do that. We can do that, right? But providing no new information and no pushback on the potential gap the customer thinks they need and what they truly need.
John, you're on a roll with part two, education. I'm going to throw it right back to you, but I did want to bust in and share this quote because I love this quote too. Again, kind of counterintuitive when it comes to sales and maybe some rookie salespeople out there, but something to keep in mind. You earn business by being generous with your knowledge and resources without asking for anything in return. But if you think about it, that's such a great way to build rapport, to build trust, to earn that trust, right? As opposed to just looking for dollars and cents at every phone call or every aspect, or always trying to close the sale, when in actuality what you're really trying to do is build a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think of anything, right? Whether we're helping, a bank, whatever the business is, we want to be an anti-bank. We don't want to be like every bank, right? And in this case, we want to be an anti-salesperson and say, look, listen, Dave, buyer Dave, you know, the number one thing is I want you to get what you need, and that might not be us. But here's some questions that you should be asking anyone you come in contact with. And just being that resource. So the best sales professionals stand out and win the client's business when they know their customer's world better than they know it themselves. Teaching them what they don't know but should. The best sales reps win the battle not by discovering what the customer already knows they need, but by teaching them a new way of thinking, prompting the buyer to think, huh, I never thought of it that way before. The potential buyer learns so much on the discovery call. This is my favorite part. Learns so much on the discovery call with that salesperson that they would have been willing to pay for that conversation, right? Because they're so much more educated than they were. So the goal is to take the customer on a roller coaster ride, leading first to a rather dark place before showing them the light at the end of the tunnel. And of course, that light is your solution, right? But you want to make sure the customer feels, almost sick to their stomach with all the money they're wasting, or revenue they're missing, or risk they're unknowingly exposed to by continuing to operate the way they are. A great sales professional catches the customer off guard with an unexpected viewpoint, right? To surprise them, make them curious, and get them to wanting to hear more. If your customer's first reaction to your insight is enthusiastic agreement, then you haven't really taught them anything. That's what everyone else is saying. Listen, I need a hammer and nails. Oh, we sell a hammer and nails. Ah, great. Yeah, right. We don't want just to go like that, because they're going to call 6 other hardware stores that sell hammer and nails. And I know I'm simplifying especially the B2B complex sales with that example, but that's a dangerous place to be. Sure, it always feels great when your customer says, I agree. But remember, the real value, if the interaction isn't what you sell, it's the insight you provide as part of the sales interaction itself. So a great example of educating a buyer on something they may not know, but should, sounds like we've worked with several companies like yours. And we have found that the 3 challenges they come across again and again as by far the most troubling is this what, and you explain what those 3 are and say, is this what you're seeing too, or would you add something else to it? So that really helps them understand your knowledge and light bulbs going off and the insights that you just taught them.
Yeah, and educate versus selling is so important. I think it's missed by so many organizations. But the reality is the best brands teach their employees to educate customers rather than sell to them. And again, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but it works. Sometimes when it's truly in their best interest, that may mean talking a potential buyer out of making a big purchase, knowing that it's not going to go well, or you're not the right organization, it's not the right fit. That's tough for some salespeople to do, but those are the types of decisions that can definitely pay off down the road. It sounds crazy, but I can tell you every time that we've done that with the client, they have made changes and said, okay, well, we'll do this. We understand. We'll add this. We'll do this. And a lot of times they wind up spending more with us because we have proven to them that our number one priority is their best interest and their results, not just capitalizing on one sale.
So just to make that clear, what we mean here when we educate versus sell is talking them out of something.
Mm.
Like, that's not in your best interest, and they're shocked. or we actually tell them, that, here's a less expensive alternative. What you're asking for isn't what you need. And that's where they're shocked. And, the lifetime value of that client becomes greater because they trust us so much more.
For sure. Next slide, we're talking about building rapport. That's such an important piece of selling. And obviously, natural born salespeople, there are some of them out there that they probably do this, and you see them at parties and they're just working the room and they know everybody. But this is a learnable skill. Others can learn this as well. And that's where Ford comes into play. If you've been around the DiJulius group for a while, you know what Ford is. Some of you might be newer and not, but it's such an important focus for sales as well. So Ford is an acronym for us that stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And why we focus on this type of information is because that's the information that to we as humans is the most important information, the most important things to us, right? Obviously, our family. If you meet someone for the first time at a cookout or a party, what's the first or second thing you ask? What do you do? Right? It's how we identify ourselves, how we spend our recreational time, how we spend our discretionary income is really important to us. And then our dreams, our aspirations that we're trying to pay to get our kids through the school of their dreams, whatever that is that you have. So that's the type of information that if we're able to get that information, and we do so by listening, right? By being an active listener, participating in the conversation. It's not just asking these questions point blank. It's having a conversation. It's learning about that prospect or that client, and then using that information to build better rapport, learning about them, finding similarities, using that to build rapport. Whether it's in that one-time phone call, we talked about how important it is to make that impact and be different right off the bat, or over time, right? It's putting this information into your CRM and making sure that you're going back and using it as you're building that relationship over time. So focusing on Ford is so important. And I would make the argument that it's even more important than in sales than anywhere else because of what we talked about already, that natural tendency for a salesperson to kind of show up and just start throwing all that information out, as opposed to learning about the person that's sitting across from them or is on the phone with them. And focusing on Ford is such a great way to do that.
So, one of my favorite best practices, a lot of our clients use this, they have a Ford pad. I think Victor from KeyBank is on this, and I'm pretty sure they introduced something similar, a pad. And what it is, my Ford pad is just something that I'll look at in the morning, and the start of the day, and I'll look and say I have 4 Zoom calls. And then some are existing clients and some may be a potential client, and so I'll just look at it and do some research that takes less than 2 minutes, but we'll go into our CRM system and just make sure I'm prepped or reminded of anything our existing clients they're for, right? If it's someone I've never met before or I'm having a first interaction, then I'll do some obviously they're probably not in our CRM system unless Claudia or Lindsay or someone else has collected on the initial inquiry. But that's where I'll just run to LinkedIn really quick to see what they're alumni of, who we have mutual friends, so we can make that connection. And then I just listen, right? And you don't have to ask, like Dave said. It's not like, are you married? Do you have kids? Things come up. You might hear a dog barking. You might hear, a baby crying. You might hear, that they just got back from their anniversary trip. And so I'm just collecting that. And then, this part I love. There's a gift in every conversation. Besides the business follow up of what we're promising to send. This is what I love is if they're going on vacation next week to an area, a city, a country that they've never been to. I will send them a link to the best restaurants, or if I know that they're runners, best trails, best things. And a lot of times, it takes 30 seconds, but a lot of times they'll forget that we even had that conversation, that came up in it. So I always say, there's a gift in every conversation besides the call to action.
So here's the formula. Expertise plus rapport equals high sales. And it's really, really important that your sales team knows they are part of your customer experience for your organization. They are as much a part of the customer experience as any other, your customer service team, anywhere else in your organization. So you have to review every stage of your sales cycle to see how you can help create a selling experience with this formula. Where can you plug this in? Where can you build better rapport? Where can this be more of a focus?
All right. We are going to throw it back to Lindsay to facilitate questions and answers.
All right. Oh, perfect. I'm waiting to see if anything's coming through. We'll give them like another minute here.
Any ahas, anything that you're already doing, and maybe it's a best practice that you want to add to, or difficulty that maybe some of our examples doesn't apply to your business model. Thank you,
Kristen
Kristen.
said, yeah, excited about the fantastic. We're excited to have you join us. Brooke said they've been using Ford mindfully with their leaders the past few weeks and have made it's made such an impact already. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So that's
Right.
wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Here's first question from Ashley. What is the best way to build rapport in a phone call that typically lasts a couple minutes, 5 to 7 minutes?
I'm going to start, but I want Dave to really take this because Dave has managed call centers and contact centers. But what I'm going to say is, our first business, John Roberts Spa, I always say, I don't want, if you're calling to book an appointment and that's, typically, 6 minutes or less, hopefully, if we do it efficiently and well, I don't want my guest care to be forwarding you, right? And that's like a stalker checklist, right? But that's where it comes into, a lot of times clients, guests, customers overshare when you're talking. But Dave, go ahead. You're the guru on this.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment, John, 100%. And it's really just that reminder that we are there for that customer. So especially if it's in a sales role and you only have a little bit of time, I would make sure that you're meeting their needs and you're finding out what their needs are. You're learning as much about them so that you can help them with your service or your product because you may not have that opportunity again. So learning as much about them, looking for ways to make that impact. And here's something else, especially on the phone. We always talk about smiling and how important that is. It's cliche, but it's important. So reminding your team members to smile, reminding your team members to use that person's name because that's such a great way to build rapport as well. So get the name, use their name in the conversation, and making sure that you're asking some questions and getting them talking with some answers as opposed to just throwing all that information out like we talked before.
The other thing, Ashley, to your question is depending on, if you have a CRM system, and these are existing past customers calling up, you can click on, in our world with the DiJulius group, we could say, oh, how's your fall in Chicago going? Right. That's using Ford that we know you're from Chicago. In the salon and spa, just referencing, looking up at their history and seeing that they got highlights last month and just, making a quick note. Did you enjoy your highlights? Did anybody notice your highlights? Right. None of this should add 10 seconds to that interaction.
Yep. All right. Any other questions anyone has while we have? Oh, here we go. Perfect. All right, Victor. We have found that it's a balance while building authentic rapport with clients while staying focused on meeting sales goals. What tips can you find? Wait, what tips can you find to make sure there's a balance in integrating both? Or what tips can you suggest?
Dave?
So I think it's an important balance, right? Because salespeople do have to be selling, But again, that natural inclination, nerves kick in, and we become so product driven and so product focused. And maybe it's kind of that desire to show that we're smart, and that's a way to build credibility. But in actuality, learning about that customer and learning about their needs is really the best way to go about it. So I think it's important to set up a system that you find that works for your organization. But I would always recommend leading with learning about that customer first, as opposed to starting with products, right? So ask some questions, learn about them. Maybe you can work in a product or a service, and then ask some more questions. It's really a little bit like a dance, if you will, where you're kind of going back and forth. But the natural tendency for so many sales folks, especially newer ones, is to get all that out there and then let you pick what you want. But in a lot of cases, it's just pushing people away.
Good.
All right. Let's see. Brooke asks, how do you deal with a disengagement or burnout within a team? And what are the first steps to re-engage someone?
So, that's huge. And depending on if it's, contact center, call center, that's so I'm going to first open with that. We always got to be providing how the job they do, uh, you know, impacts the customer. And a lot of times, the salespeople, a lot of time, the external salespeople, the consultant, the hairdresser, whoever is the mortgage lender gets all the recognition because they, are out there and they close the sales, but the support people don't. And so we got to make sure that we're showing the part that they play. Another really good one, if it comes to contact centers, call centers, whatever that may look like, is asking for their feedback. I mean, no one knows better. It's almost as good as asking, doing a focus group with your customers. The difference is you have a 24/7 availability to your contact center, where it's a little, you got to hope that your customers are willing to, just fill out surveys or whatever the motto you're using. But if something's wrong with our website right now, our contact center knows, because a customer called up and said, listen, I tried to and I couldn't, and so I'm calling you to book an appointment or to order that product or whatever that may be. Too often, right, the customer service rep says, oh, let me take care of that for you, which is nice, but they're not communicating with management that the product or the appointment part of the website is down. So we try to constantly communicate focus groups, but also give them vehicles to tell us, what are the customers telling you? What is frustrating them? And they feel like more ambassadors of the company than just people that are doing the same tasks over and over again. Dave, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, I was just going to add the other thing that comes to my mind too is, that's where we have to come in as leaders and make sure that we're doing those things internally, kind of like what we talked about that we have coming up in our session. The second session, when we do the employee experience journey mapping, making sure that our leaders are providing that support. They're focused on building that rapport, building those relationships. And Brooke, I know that you have a focus on that, because we did some work together. We did some great things on kind of that ongoing employee experience. But it takes time too, right? For a lot of managers or leaders, there's a learning curve, right? They didn't learn that in business school, and they're maybe a little too focused on production and results and not supporting and engaging their team. So we can help put the pieces in place to solve that, but then there's a learning curve, and your leaders have to be accountable to do it.
Awesome.
Nice. Okay. I think I'm waiting to see if any last ones pop in, but I think we got through all of our questions. Let's see here. Okay. So just to wrap up, again, just so everyone knows, I will be sending a follow-up email later on today, which will include the copy of the recording, the slide deck that they presented, and additional resources from the DiJulius group, including our live stream workshops that'll be held in October and November. So additional information on all of those will be coming your way. If you haven't already and would like to, our next virtual webinar series will take place 2 weeks from today. It's Thursday, October 10th, 1 p.m. Eastern again. And we're going to be hearing on how to turn your contact center into a relationship center. So definitely one you don't want to miss. Dave, John, any last minute? or
No, I enjoyed this. Thank
anything
you
you wanna
for
add?
the engagement. And Dave, I know you got to get to the airport.
I do, but happy selling, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye.